Right, hey everyone and welcome back to Cade's Comics, and welcome back to a series that I haven't done for a little while. This is part 5 of 5 recent reads. If this is your first time watching the channel, I just want to say make sure you hit that subscribe button down below so you never miss another video. And if this is not your first time watching the channel, I hope you enjoy this video like all the others. So for the new faces on the channel, 5 Recent Reads is an ongoing series where I look at 5 books that I've read recently and I give you guys my thoughts on them. They're 5 books from any publishers, Image, Aftershock, Marvel, DC, you name it. So the first book that I read recently is I Hate This Place from Image Comics. It's created by duo Kyle Starks and Art-Jon Tomlin. I have to always take a second to pronounce that name, but it's Art-Jon Tomlin. So this trade paperback collects 5 issues, and the story follows couple Trudy and Gabby as they move into a new farmhouse that they've inherited from Gabby's great auntie, although everything is not as it seems. This first trade paperback is a really nice, quick, simple read. I read it all in about an hour, maybe just a little bit underneath. With it only being 5 issues, you can blitz through it really well. The artwork, the colouring is great throughout, and I really liked the character dynamics that you have between Trudy and Gabby. At times their relationship seemed genuine and you can see they really care about each other, which was something nice to see. It never felt forced. It never felt like it was an LGBTQI plus relationship for the sake of being it. And I know sometimes that can kind of be a bit of a gimmick, but with this, not at all. Just a couple that love each other and want to protect each other against this evil that's coming from the cattle ranch. So as I mentioned, there is evil on the cattle ranch. They move in, and on the first night, the ranch is surrounded by a bunch of ghosts. There are also other things going on the land. It's 500 acres of land, so it's quite big. I don't want to spoil anything for you guys because I do advise you to go and pick this up. It's for, I would say, older teens. There is quite a lot of like gruesome violence and stuff, and it might be a little bit scary for younger readers. If that's something you're a fan of, then check this out. If it's something that's going to put you off, then maybe give it a miss. I really enjoyed it, and I'm really looking forward for volume 2. And this guy on the cover, the Horned Man, is terrifying. Next up at number 2, we have a big event from the Marvel Universe, which is hopefully coming to the MCU soon in an upcoming series. This is Secret Wars. This is written by Brian Michael Bendis, with art from Lionel Francis Yu.
Just want to say quickly how sorry I am that I called this Secret Wars instead of Secret Invasion. This absolute joke man is calling it Secret Wars all the way throughout, and I'm really sorry for anyone that's put off by that.
For you guys that don't know the premise, it's basically an espionage story about Skrulls invading Earth, infiltrating superheroes and stuff, and it's really interesting. It's a great concept. However, at times it seemed convoluted for the sake of being convoluted. I got a big sense that the writer didn't really know themselves who was going to be a Skrull and who wasn't going to be a Skrull up until the last couple issues. It's only 8 issues, and I felt like for the first 6, you didn't really know who was a Skrull and who wasn't. And I got the sense that the writer didn't either, and then in the last 2 issues they kind of were like, oh shit, we need to really sort out who's who. So this really added to the sense of mystery for me, but I also really thought the writer should have a firm grasp on who was going to be a Skrull and kind of introduce elements of that a little bit earlier and foreshadow things a little bit. I felt like the artwork was very complementary to the sense of paranoia that Brian Michael Bendis was writing. The way that Lionel Francis Yu is able to draw different characters in their different suits and outfits throughout the years, it really helped to accentuate the paranoia and the disturb that everybody felt around the Skrulls being anywhere at all times. Minor spoiler for this, just skip ahead if you don't want to hear this. Hawkeye saves who he thinks is his wife and then finds out in the next issue that she's a Skrull, and then his actual wife comes back. That was really interesting for me to sort of align with Hawkeye and not really know who's a Skrull at all. So I enjoyed it from that part. I just wish that the writing had implemented little bits earlier on to sort of foreshadow that. Number 3 now, and we're on to Image Comics. This is Ed Brubaker and Sean Phillips' Scene of the Crime. This is one of their earlier works before they did Kill or Be Killed, Criminal, Pulp, a lot of things that you know them for. This also has an intro by Brian Michael Bendis, who, as I just discussed, was the writer on Secret Invasion. So this is a modern noir set in the 1990s, which follows Jack Herriman. I always read it as Herman, but it's Jack Herriman. This book reminded me a lot of films like Chinatown, LA Confidential, and the Rockstar game LA Noire. Just a really good detective novel. However, that being said, this book is a tragedy at heart, and it's not one to read if you're already feeling a little bit fragile or just need something like a pick-me-up. Just bear that in mind mind that it is a tragedy, but it's a very well written tragedy. And just building on that, I would say that this book is for mature readers, especially the later issues delve into some pretty heavy concepts and pretty heavy themes. Younger readers and people that aren't into that kind of stuff probably shouldn't read and wouldn't enjoy reading, so mature readers definitely. So for the most part, this book was great. You don't really know what's going on, but it really worked in its favour. And this is the complete polar opposite of what I've just been talking about in Secret Invasion. I feel like Ed Brubaker had a set plan from the very start and knew where this book was going to end up going. That's the impression I got anyway. I would highly recommend it if you guys haven't checked this out already. Scene of the Crime. Sean Phillips' artwork throughout is amazing as always. It's a great self-contained story without massive action or anything like that, and it follows this private investigator that's really failed and is a flawed character. And if there's one thing that I like, it's a good flawed character that's written really, really well. That's what you get in Scene of the Crime. I just want to remind you guys, if you are enjoying this video, hit subscribe down below so you never miss another one. Hit like and leave me a comment down below as well. Let me know what you've been reading recently. On to number 4 now. So something a little bit lighter now. This is just a fun romp. This is The Man Who Fucked Up Time from Aftershock Comics. Again, another short one. This is 5 issues, the same as I Hate This Place. Again, I read it within like an hour or so, if that. And I'm pretty slow at reading, so you guys will probably read it much quicker than that. So this story is exactly what the title suggests. This is The Man That Fucks Up Time. You follow Sean Bennett as he goes back in time 1 week to try and make his life a little bit better. By doing that, he encounters all kinds of things like Abraham Lincoln VII, a world with dinosaurs, going back to the beginning of time. Loads of different things unfold throughout this story. The writer says in his own introduction that he kind of bit off a lot more than he can chew, and at times he was sat in a bar thinking like, how the hell am I going to finish this story? I think for the most part it works really well. So written by John Layman with art by Carl Mostret. John Layman has written Chew, which is a series that I've been wanting to read for a while. It's one that I've heard is really good, so I'm definitely going to have to check that out. The art throughout this and the glossy pages that you get really help to accentuate the ever-changing environments that Sean experiences. He goes through medieval times, he goes through prehistoric times, he goes through sci-fi, futuristic times. You can see that shine there. It just helps to really immerse you into this world. However, if you're not a reader that likes to be confused and you like to know what's going on all the time, then this might not be the book for you. This book is confusing all the way through and only really explains to you what is actually going on in the final issue. However, that helps you to like align with Sean. He has no idea what's going on. He's meeting other versions of himself, he's meeting all these random people. So I liked it for that sense because it really helped me to sort of see things from Sean's perspective. And just one final point on the book, the ending remains unsolved. You don't really get a payoff for the journey that Sean's been on, but the journey itself and going through all these different times is kind of the payoff in its sense. One thing I didn't like about this story was that final page. We get sort of a cathartic ending, but then almost a rug pull immediately afterwards, and it's left a little bit open. I would love to see what other people think of this, and if you have read it, then let me know down in the comments below. And final book of the 5 recent reads now. This is Mark Millar and Steve McNibbert's Nemesis. This was one that I read about 2 hours ago, and I could not tell you a single character from this. Nemesis is a weird story. It's one I knew nothing about going in. As I mentioned in my February haul, I got this book for £5 because it was on sale, and I just wanted to pick up another Mark Millar story and give it a read. I don't really know what to think about this story. It follows a supervillain all the way through without any real adversary. So I kind of didn't know if I should be rooting for this guy or if I wanted him to fail at every turn. He does some horrific things, and so obviously I wasn't going to root for him. He's also got no adversary, so he's just kind of left to his own devices to do all of these things. This one felt very rushed. It's only 4 issues. In the introduction, Mark Millar states that he's been wanting to write this for quite a while, but I never really got that sense. I never got the sense that he's been planning this out methodically for years or anything like that. And with the new continuation of the story, Nemesis Reloaded, I don't know where he's going to go with it. One question I had after reading this, and one question that you guys might be able to help me on down in the comments below, does Nemesis have superpowers? Because there are things that they do in this that no human being would be able to do. He must have superpowers. There's one bit where he lands on the outside of a plane with seemingly no gravity boots or anything like that. Just lands on the outside of a plane, blows up the plane with him inside it, crashes it and it burns. How does he survive that? I have no idea. And he also takes out like 100 people in one bit. I feel like this would make an interesting anime, maybe. I could never see this being live action or even like Western animation. I think anime would have to be the way that you'd go with this, just because at times it is so over the top. The way the art and action and violence is drawn was pretty interesting. It's something that I really enjoyed in Civil War. But as I mentioned when I introduced this book, the main thing lacking was an adversary for Nemesis. It was someone to go up against and be his equal. We had the main guy who was called Howlett, I want to say, but he's just a guy. The things that Nemesis does are so horrific and off the chain that we needed someone to match that, but for a staple of good. I would definitely suggest that you guys go and check these out, and as I mentioned, let me know down in the comments below what you've been reading recently. I do really like to know, and it gives me books to read as well. If you enjoyed this video, leave a like down below, consider subscribing. I'm trying to hit 1,000 subscribers before the end of the year. Fingers crossed we can get there. Hopefully we can. And yeah, thank you guys so much for watching. If anyone is still watching this video, I hope you enjoyed it, and I'll see you all later. See you later, guys. Bye.